Pnawn da, cynhyfrod Sue Shotter ydw I, croeso. My name is Councillor Sue Shotter, and I am the Chair of the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting today, which is a multi-location meeting. The meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be available for viewing after the meeting. Should the live stream fail, the meeting will continue and a recording will be available through the Council's website following the conclusion of the meeting. Can I remind members that a translation facility is available and for those attending remotely to choose your language of choice. For those attending remotely, please note those in the chamber will be able to use the chat facilities. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please raise your hand. For those attending remotely, please use the raised hand function. We will alternate between speakers in the chamber and remote attendees. Committee members who are attending remotely are required to leave the camera on throughout the debate and when voting in order to maintain the integrity of the decision-making process. If you need to leave the meeting, pop a message in the chat function so the Democratic Service Officer is aware and then let us know when you return. I expect everyone present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. That applies to members, officers, and anyone in the public gallery. When I open up the debate, I will ask committee members to speak their questions first, followed by non-committee members. While I do not wish to stifle debate, can I remind members any questions should be focused on the subject matter and to avoid repetition. If I feel that the length of an individual speeches are negatively impacting on the overall time for discussion and becoming unmanageable, I will defer to the committee's rule and procedures, which limit the length of speeches to 5 minutes. Diolch. Before we move on to the agenda, can I actually welcome Alison Corwell from Betsy? Unfortunately, she has another meeting to attend this afternoon, so we'll be leaving after our first agenda item. Okay, members. Apologies for absences. Committee Service Officer Jane Jones. Are there any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
I have Cathy, Councillor Cathy. She's given her apologies. Declaration of Interest, Code of Local Government. Members reminded that they must declare the existence and nature of the declared personal interest. Any declarations, members? No. Any urgent matters?
No urgent matters.
Thank you. Agenda item 4. The minutes to approve and sign a correct record of the minutes of the previous meeting on Wednesday, the 6th of March, 2024, pages 3 to 7. We will take the pages individual members. So let's go. 4, 5, 6, 7. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Frank? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Angie? Members, if you could all show your approval by the show of your hands in the chamber and on Zoom. Thank you, members. Any against? And any members abstaining? Okay, members, that's been carried. Agenda item 5, question to Cabinet members. Do we have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Agenda item 6, to review the Forward Work Programme, pages 8 to 13, and the combined Forward Work Programme, pages 14 to 38. Dawn Hughes, Service Committee Officer, will present this agenda item. Diolch, Dawn.
Thank you, Chair. Well, afternoon, members. So can I advise you of a few changes to the forward plan since it was last published? So there's a few reports scheduled for the 17th of July, and these include the role and profile of social work, including sustainability of the workforce, child exploitation and broader learning from child practice reviews, the Director of Social Services' annual report, and an annual update from on the Children and Communities grant. I have met with the Chair and the Vice Chair before the meeting, and we're going to try and balance out the agendas because it's quite heavy in September and July. So I'll do some work behind the scenes so we've got a balance of reports. Also, for the benefit of those members who were unable to attend the scrutiny self-assessment, just so you're aware, a report will be presented to the Democratic Services Committee to consider the views of members and identify if any changes are needed to the current arrangements. So that's my update, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dawn. Okay, members, do I have a proposer for? Thank you, Councillor Frank. And thank you, councillor. Second, Bernice. Okay, members, can I now ask you to show of hands in the chamber and on Zoom to approve this agenda item? Any against? And anybody abstaining? Okay, these have been passed. Thank you very much. We move on to agenda item 7A, to consider a report by the Strategic Director, Social Care and Education on the following matters. Strategic Multi-Agents Panel, SNAP, Annual Report, pages 39 to 52. Recommendations can be found on page 40. Consultation and engagement can be found on page 48. And there is a risk implication here, which can be found on pages 51 and 52. The report being introduced by Councillor Liz Roberts, Cabinet Member for Children, Family and Safeguarding Services, Stephanie Robbins, Head of Children, Family and Safeguarding Services, and Kathy Mackenzie, Serviceman Children Looked After, will provide the details. Diolch, Councillor Liz.
Thank you so much. Well, if I can just set the scene that this report before you today regarding the Strategic Multi-Agency Panel, known as SMAP, is at the request of the Strategic Director of Social Care and Education to share with members the significant budgetary pressures placed on the children and young people being placed in independent residential placements, which ultimately highlights the risk to the Council's budget. A significant challenge remains in the number of children being placed in high-cost operating without registration placements. And as members are well aware, there has been a significant year-on-year increase in costs and the number of children accommodated in these settings. Whilst this report relates to the year 2022-23, future concerns must be cited, including the impact of increased costs and what effect this will have on the Council's budget going forward. So I would like now for Stephanie Robbins, the Head of Children, Families and Safeguarding, to further share the report with you. Thank you.
Hi. The SMAP meeting is a multi-agency meeting which is held monthly to ensure that all children looked after not only have their accommodation needs met, but their social and emotional care needs, but that we ensure their health and education needs are also met. Today, I have colleagues with me from both health and education who are in attendance at each monthly SMAP meeting. Kathy, the author of the report, chairs SMAP as a service manager for the looked after service. It's important to note that this is a social care report written with the information presented within the panel. It's a difficult decision that the local authority is often left with no other option than to place children outside of Conway in independent residential placements, away from their family, friends and school. It also creates a significant budgetary pressure on the authority. The report outlines the membership of the panel and its core functions and provides some statistical information about the number of children in residential settings outside of Conway. A child requiring residential provision is rarely a planned event, and frequently placements are needed on an urgent basis. Yet the guidance for the SMAP meeting to which the members of the SMAP have to comply with is predominantly aimed at planned situations. It's important to note that decisions about recommending placements happen in a timely way, and children are not left at risk. What you would have read within the report is that a review of the SMAP process took place in 2019 to ensure wherever possible, multi-agency discussion is held around the need for a residential setting prior to the request being presented at SMAP. The SMAP meeting is well attended by all parties, and in turn, the sharing of information is effective through this forum to support the children we have in out-of-county settings. Once outside of Conway, it's challenging for all, for health and education included, to assess the resources which best meet the young person's needs and whether they can be delivered in the locality they are placed or whether they need to be provided as part of the care package. This takes skilled negotiation with different health boards and education providers in order to ensure each child's health and educational needs are met in the new area. In this instance, it's often the social worker that will remain the consistent professional in the child's life, as their responsibility is not transferred when a child is placed in another local authority area. Our commissioning tool for such residential placements is again another challenge, as quite often the independent placements, particularly those in England, have not registered with the CCSR framework that we use within Conway. It's also important to recognise the challenge of placement searching. We have one full-time placement commissioning officer whose time is absorbed by identifying these placements. Placement matching is very complex, as there's such scarcity of placements available to choose from. This in turn creates a provider market, which we have seen and continue to see costs double and treble. Some of our most complex children have experienced rejection several times, and they can respond by protecting themselves and becoming what could be observed on the surface at best as defensive and at worst aggressive towards those trying hard to support them. These behaviours make it even more challenging to find a placement that will accept them through these difficult times. And this can lead to the young person facing several moves, making it even more difficult to ensure their holistic needs are met. It takes time to set up packages of support, but this in turn challenges the stability of those placements for those children. This is where we've seen an increase in the use of operating without registration, the unregulated settings. The organisations we work with who provide staff at short notice have varying levels of quality. To ensure that children are safe, we have a process in place for informing CIW and Ofsted. The social workers visit these children weekly, regardless of where they're located, and continue with placement finding throughout. Some of the placements are long-term providers established in providing 28-day holiday respite settings. These placements have experienced staff who can deliver care in various settings. Some unregulated placements might be companies that are setting up care homes, but perhaps have not yet had their registration through, which is noted within the report. In extreme emergencies, the department have to look at alternative accommodation and approach agencies to pull staff together within hours to look after a child. These can be very costly placements, and the team has to ensure that the service provided meets the quality standards. There's processes in place, such as section manager visits to quality assure the service delivery, and weekly MDT meetings are held to keep the service on track whilst we continue to source alternative placements. All of the above causes challenges for all of us, including partner agencies. However, our priority is to ensure the safety and well-being of those children. The professionals involved in SMAP hold each other in high regard and all acknowledge the challenges and the limitations to hand to fully meet the complex needs of these children and the situation. It can be frustrating for all, and that is also noted within the report, that our policies and procedures, resources, staffing capacity and availability do not align at times, and that each partner agency is governed by their own individual processes. The chart recorded within the report outlines the number of times a young person is discussed. And that increased frequency can be connected to aligning our processes, again, which can be quite frustrating. The strength of SMAP, though, is around navigating through these difficulties and the barriers to ensure that the young person's needs are met in a timely way. What we are prioritising to progress the support that's required for this cohort of children is enhancing our early intervention prevention for these children, identifying challenges sooner. So from a social care perspective, it's through the recognising the importance of our multi-agency safeguarding hub, MASH. It's the early intervention and edge of care panels that are held. We also have an accommodation process now in place to discuss any child that will require an independent placement prior to SMAP. We have integrated psychology posts. We have the Buthanavol early intervention service, which is again an integrated service. We have our transformation programme for residential and foster care. We have children looked after education coordinators. We have co-working relationships with education colleagues. What we need to do is review our processes, so there is clarity on health processes around funding applications, and reviewing the support offered to unregulated settings by all partner agencies. There is significant pressure on the teams, and at times all our resources are stretched beyond capacity. However, what is key is that we keep the child at the centre and maintain good working relationships to ensure that their needs are met and that they have successful outcomes because of the work that we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Steph. That was very enlightening, to be honest with you. Okay, before we actually go to questions, I'm just going to say the recommendation is on page 40, and 2.1, that the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee acknowledge the Strategic Multi-Agency Panel's annual report. And then we've got 2.2, subject to consideration of the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee recommendation, that Cabinet note the Strategic Multi-Agency Panel annual report for 2022 to 2023. I'm just going to ask for a proposer for the recommendations. Councillor Frank? Okay, now we can move over to questions. I've got Councillor Liz. Do you want to come in first, Councillor Liz? Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. It's most kind of you. Yes, as Cabinet Lead for Children and Families, I want to see a working arrangement between all partners, because at the end of the day, that ultimately supports the child and children that we work with. So as Steph has just highlighted now, we have different processes within organisations, and we all know that. So I would welcome just asking Alison, who I'm so pleased to here with us today, what can I do and members, officers, do in our capacity to help progress further this SMAP partnership, which of course, as I just said, ultimately is what we need to do in supporting children's support packages. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. Yes, I'm Alison Cowell, Associate Director for Children's Services and a member of SMAP. I have been on leave for nearly 5 months, but just back in now, and we've had a discussion just now about whether or not there have been any things that we need to pay real focus to whilst I've been off. And I think, Liz, in terms of what can you or members do, I know we've just had a conversation about you joining SMAP, just to see how that's working. I think that would be really helpful, and that I certainly try and prioritise attending SMAP as the Associate Director, so that we can get decisions made in a speedy way. I can't always be there, but I generally am. And I think that what we've agreed is that actually having a look at some of our processes that might be frustrating to all organisations. Part of that is just not knowledge and awareness of them. And I think we probably have been at fault in not doing that sooner, really, and that we actually make it really clear to everybody what, we've got the Welsh Government continuing care guidance we have to work to, but what does that mean in practice? What does the flowchart look like? What does the process look like? And that's what we have said. We need to make sure that everybody really knows that and understands that, so that there's no confusion and frustration as a consequence of just not understanding some of the basic systems. Okay, but I think we would welcome you joining SMAP and seeing how that is functioning. So, okay.
If I may say, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alison. It's nice to know that you've got plans for the future, mostly with the aims that you want to take forward. I think that's really positive. Okay, I'm going to move over to members. Questions. Councillor Louise on Zoom.
Pananda Pal. If my connection isn't so good, let me know and I'll turn my video off. Just shout out. This is a really hard read, and it doesn't feel right to use the words acknowledge and note. Just nod it through. Yes, don't worry about that. Yes, what are you worried about? Well, I'm really worried about this. If you go to the key concerns, which have been highlighted on page 47, we're looking at serious delays for neurological assessment for children of up to 18 months. My word. Residential settings not being able to be sourced, and this sort of non-for-profit agenda, which is commendable in one sense, but it's not practical in another. And I really want to sort of understand the impact must be, is it now? So the Welsh Government eliminate profit agenda may mean, it's the last concern, that local authority is not able to place a child of a profit-making independent placement. That to me seems a little bit bonkers. There's obviously not enough private providers. There's obviously not enough third sector providers. There's not enough provision, and therefore the market isn't very competitive and they can charge through the roof. So I want to understand at the moment, if we have a child that we're looking for a really complex placement for them, and it's in England with a company that is a normal limited company that's entitled to make a profit, are we allowed to send that child to them today? And if not, what happens? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Louise. I'll call in Steph to answer that question.
So at this moment in time, the bill hasn't gone live, that we're working towards the plan by 2027 that we no longer place children in profit-making companies. So in terms of our position at the moment, that we are still using placements in England and profit-making independent placements, that we have been provided with funding to develop and transform, and that's the programmes that you've heard previously, our residential transformation programme, that we're looking at developing our own internal resources. But yeah, we are concerned about placement sufficiency and what that will look like for us with our current cohort of children that are placed out of area. We still will require those specialist settings, and we know as a local authority that we won't be able to provide all of those different types of specialisms internally. So we are working through a plan of what that would look like for Conway as we speak, really, and continue to look at developments and connections with the third sector and commissioning our own internal resource. So it is a concern, but we're taking as much action as we can to try and manage and mitigate some of those risks.
Thank you, Steph. I'll just call in Councillor Louise again. I'm sure
So
you'd like to come in.
Yes, definitely. So to come back on that, those alarm bells that are ringing for you now, 2027 is around the corner, isn't it, really? And we're never going to be able to build enough of our own care for the children. So are those being fed back via Councillor Liz or via the to Welsh Government to say, hold on a minute, this may be seem like a good idea. All other counties must be having the same problem. So is that being fed back?
I will just bring in Councillor Liz for you.
Indeed, and there is a meeting with the Minister now for Social Services coming up at the end of this month, and this will be one thing that will be taken forward. Don't worry at all. And if you want to get in contact with me prior to my going to the meeting, you're more than welcome to do so. Thank you.
Maybe a good idea, Councillor Liz, is once you've had the meeting, if you could just maybe let the committee know how that went and if you've got any feedback for us. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for those questions, Councillor Louise. Okay, I'm going to call in Councillor Paul.
Thank you. I'd like to build on some of the points that Louise has made, but I want to start by saying we should be really proud that we've got good people doing good work every day, and their priority is not the budget. Their priority every day is to ensure that accommodation and care for any child in any circumstances that arrives at our doorstep is sorted to best effect on that day. And even if on that day what we're providing isn't what we prefer, they then go steps further until they get something which does meet that child's needs. So let's acknowledge that, and we should be proud of that. And even though the costs are absolutely eye-watering, when the report on Silver Gardens came through the process, and I saw that we were employing 30 people, costing nearly £2 million to care for 3 children, it was frightening, but I was proud that we were taking that sort of action, because if it was your child, you would think, gee, they're really taking my child's needs seriously. So let's acknowledge that. Now, that doesn't mean, like Louise, that I don't want to call out some problems today. So I think we need to firstly call out Welsh Government, because let's be serious. And Alison had said to us, part of the problem is lots of people don't understand the processes and the systems and the structures and the protocols. but that's a weak defence. I would argue a lot of those processes, systems, structures, roles are no longer fit for purpose in this contemporary age that we have, with all the issues we have. It's been flagged up again about the neurodiverse developments and how youngsters can't get both the assessments, the diagnosis, the treatment. The systems that we have in place at the moment are not fit for purpose. It's no point in complaining about these issues. We had the report only the other week about gender identity. In fact, this week about gender identity. It's a contemporary issue which we have to address and we have to deal with. It's important that we do it. So I think we do have to be much more demanding on Welsh Government to get its practices right, because I feel for staff in Betsy, the leaders in Betsy are really being directed under special measures by Welsh Government. And in that direction that they're getting from Welsh Government, if you're not giving your staff the permissions, as we give our staff the permissions, we give our staff permissions every day, do what you have to do to make sure that kid's in accommodation and cared for. We'll deal with the financial problem that you caused for us later. And that's how it should be. There won't be anybody in the council that won't say that. We have to deal with the youngsters' needs first. Now, if you're in a professional lead in Betsy, I'm not sure those permissions are being given. So that when they turn up at a meeting to try and resolve collectively a solution for that youngster's needs, reading this report, what I hear is the angst for staff about those processes. They're obviously not fit for purpose. In this report, just think for a minute about the angst of the child who's had 19 meetings about his or her accommodation. Think about his family, whatever the issues were in those families, there'll be members in those family. What's their angst? Never quite knowing where that youngster's going to be placed. When a youngster's placed in an unregistered, unregulated placement, either an unregistered and unregulated placement or one or the other, what's their angst? It would be good to hear that angst coming through in this report, because at the end of the day, they're uncertain about who's going to care for them, where they're going to live, and in many cases, they know they're going to live a long way from maybe important friends and family in Conway. They may be many, many miles away, and I worry about that angst. So we need to call out. I think we also need to call out the social care inspector of Wales, because their job is to regulate what is happening. And they seem to go along with what is happening, and they seem to go along with Welsh Government. So I would want to call out today social care inspector, because I don't think they're doing their regulatory job effectively at the moment. They are accepting this situation, which is not good for not only our children, but children across Wales. So they need to look to themselves as well.
Now, Councillor Paul, can I just remind you that Councillor Liz is hopefully going to get a meeting and she will feed back to us. So hopefully she will take on board some of those.
I have no concern about Liz's advocacy.
Absolutely, I absolutely agree with you. But
I have no concern about her
I am
advocacy.
sure Councillor Liz is very aware of what you're saying at the moment, and she will be taking that forward. Thank you. Is there any other question you would like to ask, Councillor Paul, before I go on?
What I would like to ask, and Kathy and Steph and Jenny will not be surprised with this, I do think we need to hear the story for the children and the families that are going through these processes. Fully accept in this report the angst of staff. I can feel the angst of staff reading this report. But I do want us to capture the angst of the child and the families who are being forced to go through these processes, which are not fit for purpose.
Okay, Councillor Paul, I'm just going to call in Kathy.
Firstly, to just reassure you that although we're having these meetings, It doesn't impact on the children. The children don't know we're worrying about money, because our primary concern is we get them the placement, they're in the placement. They are worried when they don't know how long that placement will be. They are worried about where they'll get their education. What we do in Conwy, we do it extremely well. We follow our regulatory body in terms of the procedures for the children who are placed in placements operating without regulation. And that does mean that the social worker has to visit every single week, whether they're in Scotland, Kent, wherever, that we actually see the children and talk to the children. We have to report to CIW what the child said, how many placements we're doing. So I think we commit to that. It's really hard, it's really challenging, but we do commit to it. The children themselves do not know about discussions that are related to the 2019 ones that we've had. They wouldn't know that we're having those discussions. For them, they're social workers, they're nurses, carry on business as if nothing is happening. They don't need to worry in that respect, but they do worry that they're out of their home area and they don't know for how long and when. And that's the role of the social worker to get that voice to us. And just to remind you, I am doing a paper for members' development around the voice of the child. So I have been working on that since we last spoke. So that will be coming.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Just come back on that.
Very quickly, Councillor Paul.
Yeah, no, the staff, out of the whole of the authority, the staff working in this area, since I've been a councillor, have answered my many questions speedily, deal with issues, have kept me informed, and that's important. The additional question I want to ask is, and I feel very strongly about these youngsters as well. We have, I don't know the exact numbers today, but something like 20 or so unaccompanied asylum seekers who are also children looked after. Can I just carry on?
Very quickly, because we do have, you've got to remember, we do have the recommendation. We have had a proposal. So I don't really want to take away from the agenda item that we're discussing
I just want to
today.
ask this question, because we don't fund the full cost of those youngsters. And these youngsters will have suffered trauma in their native country, trauma on their journey to the UK. Many of them will have medical issues, health issues. Many will have educational issues, including additional learning needs. Now we have a model there which is working. I know it's funded by the taxpayer through either UK and Welsh government, but that model seems to be working pretty effectively. I'm not saying it's not desperately difficult to manage, and we have social workers traveling all over the country, but that model seems to be working. And seems to be, to me, and unless I've got it wrong, much lower cost. And I just want to understand how that works so that is a lower cost. Sort of.
Simple answer. Sorry. Simple answer is that is not care, it's supported living. And that comes at a different cost. In my next presentation, I'll talk about those young people and what we've been doing for them and the challenges as well.
Thank you very much, Kathy, and thank you, Paul. Okay, I'm going to call in Councillor Bernice.
Sorry about that, Chair. It's a question to Liz, really. We're talking to the Welsh Government, but are we talking across the North Wales counties? Because some problems we could perhaps resolve as a group as opposed to trying to do it by ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Bernice. Councillor Liz?
Yes, we find that all authorities across North Wales are in the same predicament, if not the whole of Wales, in all honesty. And Jenny is involved in some work that is going on at the moment within the Regional Children's Partnership, Regional Partnership Board, I should say, I'm sorry. working across North Wales. So it is something that's already been worked on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Liz. I'm going to call in Councillor David.
Thank you, Chair. Just firstly to echo what Councillor Louise said, I think there are concerns about in 2027 the not-for-profit and the private providers we do have, what's going to happen with them. So I think Jenny's already answered the question to me on that. I think at a previous meeting, I think you are looking with the other heads of social services in Wales to look to see what can be done, because that would be a very bad outcome for us if private providers did pull out. Now, on page 50 on the corporate plan outcomes, there is a lack of any mention of equality and diversity. Now children can be discriminated against for a number of reasons: gender, weight, religion, disability, sexual orientation, race, or ethnicity. And I think we need to have open discussions on that, and that should be part of our corporate plan. I think discussion discrimination should be open and going, and I think that it's the stress of the children that do feel discriminated against. And so really, I think we need to appreciate diversity and talk about differences and not feel uncomfortable about it. And I've got a few concerns that, and I've raised this a few times in the past, that it's not in. That should be one of the aims that we should have for children, that we do have those discussions with them, with all children, and so they can be open about it. And so people won't discriminate and people won't feel discriminated against. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor David. Okay, I'm going to call in Councillor Austin.
Diolch yn fawr, Madam Cadeirydd. Gai ganmol yr adroddiad yma. Mae o yn adroddiad pwysig dros ben. Fel mae yr ynghorwraig Louise wedi dweud, mae o'n agoriad llygad yn aml iawn. Ond hoffwn ni ar ôl deud hynny eilio cynnig y cynghorydd Frank Bradfield bod ni'n cymeradwyo yr adroddiad yma. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Councillor Austin. Okay, Councillor Mundy, I think you're our final speaker, are you?
Sorry.
Oh, you've got, oh. That's fine. Is the, oh, Councillor Frank.
Thank you, Chair. And I propose this report because it's an excellent report. The people who are disabled and less able in the UK and in Conway escalates every year. And I attend the social management meetings in the project and have nothing but congratulations for the dedication of the social services. And I'm not just saying that because people who are disabled need to be loved and cared for, and that is what this council does. The cost is enormous. It will always be enormous, and there's no way of reducing the cost because the cost will go up and up. I could go on and talk about the asylum seekers who seem to get, in many cases, a better deal, and who would condemn them for that. But the people who are disabled in Conway and their families recognise the effort that goes in by this council in looking after them and care. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Frank. And I'll actually echo Steph and Kathy, both of you, your staff, you work tirelessly on our behalf. As a committee, I know we appreciate all the hard work that you actually do. Okay, members, I think no more questions. We have a proposer, Councillor Frank, and a seconder, Councillor Austin. Okay, we will go to the recommendations. I'll read them once more so that you're aware of what the recommendations are, members. The recommendations can be found on page 40, and the recommendations are 2.1, that the Social Care and Health and Overview and Scrutiny Committee acknowledge the strategic multi-agency panel's annual report, and then we'll go over to 2.2, subject to consideration of the Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee recommendations, that Cabinet notes the strategic multi-agency panel annual report for 2022 to 2023. If you can now show by of hands in the chamber and on Zoom to approve this agenda item? Thank you, members. Any against? And anybody abstaining? Okay, members, that has been carried. Before we move on to the next agenda item, can I thank you, Alison, for attending today? And hopefully you will have a safe journey to your next meeting. We really do appreciate that you've actually come in person. Thank you so much. Okay, members, agenda item 7B, Corporate Parent Annual Report 2022 to 2023, pages 53 to 90. Recommendations can be found on pages 54. Engagement consultation can be found on pages 55 and 56. There is a risk implication here, which can be found on pages 60 and 61. The report being introduced by Councillor Penny Ando, Cabinet Member for Integrated Adults and Community Services, and Cathy Mackenzie, Service Manager, Children Looked After, will provide the details. Diolch, Penny. Thank you very much.
Diolch, Chair. So, as the Chair has already stated, this is the annual report of the Corporate Parenting Team 2022 to 2023. This is a yearly report that covers the time frame of April 2022 to December 23. The term corporate parenting is used for the collective responsibility of the whole council, elected members, employees and partnership agencies to ensure the best care and protection of children who are looked after and young people who come into the system, as well as care leavers. The corporate parenting team fulfills 4 key functions: champion a corporate parenting role, monitoring and overseeing plans, strategies and policies, monitoring key performance indicators, and ensure the voices of children who are looked after have their views and concerns heard, thus shaping the service. This report is detailed and extensive as to how many variables are drawn together to ensure equal opportunities and diversity. Section 4.8.2 on page 69 clearly illustrates the continued planning and foresight to ensure appropriate transformation projects are undertaken to meet the ever-changing landscape for our youngsters. I'd now like to hand over to Cathy, who has written the report and will present it. Thank you.
Now, pawb. Firstly, I'd like to say that the corporate parenting team is made up of all of the departments within Conway, and I'm always so grateful for the commitment they show in supporting me to highlight the needs of our looked after children. The work of the corporate parenting team is vital to ensure that the experiences of looked after children are kept at the forefront of the minds of our colleagues across the council and members. This has been a challenging year financially, and yet I'm always humbled by the commitment of our various departments to commit resources to these children. This is my 2nd year supporting the Chief Exec to ensure the local authority commits to the pledges and is held accountable to develop opportunities for our children and to challenge ourselves to think about even more pledges and make more improvements within this difficult climate. However, my experience at the moment of contacting my colleagues and asking them to present in corporate parenting is really easy, as each department is more than willing to showcase what they're doing to support our children. It is challenging when budgets are so tight. However, every small gesture a member of the council can do contributes to the wider picture and demonstrates their commitment to the children who are looked after. As corporate parents, we're experiencing the same financial pressures that our families face, trying to make ends meet whilst caring for our children and putting our children first and doing without some of the luxuries and the bells and the whistles. That's exactly where we are. That said, I'm going to just go through the highlights in terms of the pledges this year and the progress, and perhaps touch on some of the challenges. So in education, despite not having a virtual head teacher at the moment, the service has started to develop the concept of the virtual school, with many of our young children who are placed out of county accessing education online. Number of children have reported that this method suits them, they quite like it, but others still report that they prefer the experience of socialising with their peers in a school setting. It remains challenging for children with ALN who are in a transient care arrangements out of county. It's really challenging to plan and meet their educational needs when we're not sure how long they're going to stay, where they're going to stay. And in accordance with the Welsh Government's commencement orders, as this transition progresses, process continues, the timescales of individual development plan and personal educational plans reviews are starting to align. So even under the current pressures, we're still progressing. In terms of safeguarding, additionally, this year, the team have set up a social worker forum, which enables staff to learn from the outcomes from the child practice reviews. And this has been really well attended, and feedback's been very positive from the social workers in terms of developing their skills and learning from these reviews. The team has continued to improve ways in which the voice of the child is heard during the review. Each ISRO now writes personal introduction letters to the young people, and they really promote the use of the Mind of Their Own app, which is an app that's been designed by young people and that helps them to prepare the questions ready for review and communicate their thoughts and feelings to people, important people in their life, so they can just app them, and it's all very high tech. But it's really, because it's been designed by young people, it's very young people friendly. So the ISROs are continuing to support children to use that app. One of my highlights this year was to attend the Strong Voices group hosted by the ISROs, where I got to meet the young people and consult with them about their accommodation needs for the future. I learned such a lot from them, as they were happy to share with me what they knew about opening windows that are locked and how they open fire doors. I've learned tons. All really important when you're actually developing new accommodation. That was a lovely, lovely afternoon. This year, we also changed the safeguarding training module for children looked after, and we moved away from talking about processes and we focused more on the experiences of the looked after children. I was very privileged to have 5 young people support me to deliver the training, and I was really humbled by their ability to talk openly about their experiences. 2 young girls who were clearly happy and thriving in their foster care placement shared their frustrations about getting photographs of themselves when they were babies in order to help them to put together their life story and understand their past. And then we had 2 other young men who shared their stories about being moved constantly from placement to placement and how they coped with that and how they behaved during those times. And more importantly, who helped them to change their life around and what that looked like and what difference that made. And I was very touched by their presentations. And I hope that the participants of the day went away feeling differently about the children who display challenging behaviour and understand the underlying reasons for these children when they refuse to conform or comply with rules. And even the 2 girls after the day went home to their foster carer and said, you know, we really, really appreciate you. We've realised life could be very different, and the foster carer was really pleased that they had seen that things can be different. In terms of our early intervention and prevention this year, we've, despite financial challenges, we've managed to redesign our front door a little bit to create some capacity to deliver interventions in order to prevent the need for statutory care. So the Strengthening Families team gave a powerful presentation this year showing the effectiveness of their service. However, they have noticed that they still feel this is the tip of the iceberg, and there are still many families out there requiring lots of help. They've noted the impact of poor mental health for children and their parents following COVID, and that is developing as a theme, along with families struggling with poverty. Leisure services continue to support looked after children by giving access to the leisure facilities at reduced rates. In previous years, we've had it free, but now it's reduced rates. However, we still appreciate their commitment to this group of children, because we all know the importance that exercise has on a young person's physical and emotional well-being. Our youth service has shown considerable commitment to our preventative agenda this year. They regularly attend the Edge of Care and early intervention panels and offer support to young people very much in an informal way, where perhaps a young person doesn't want to see a social worker. They don't seem to mind a youth worker popping in and checking in on them and trying to encourage them to participate in activities. And again, we've seen this where children have lost their confidence going out since COVID, since lockdown, and developed some social activities. And our youth services are really helping in supporting young people in that way. Each year we ask, in terms of play, we ask Nathania, the play development officer, to come and talk to us about how she's supporting young people. Her service is very, very small and yet has to compete with bigger services in trying to get additional funding for expansion. However, the contribution of the team to look after children makes a significant difference. This year, she talked to us about how she supports foster carers and other professionals to think about risk differently. And she enthusiastically talked about allowing children to take risks, climb trees. And again, it really inspires foster carers and parents to just respond differently to children and give them those opportunities. Workforce, very challenging this year in all areas. But the team have supported us to continue to deliver training to our foster carers. They've been progressing nicely in terms of ensuring that the foster care service and children's residential services has been RISCA compliant, and that we've been successful in developing this year the role of the responsible individual for Conway, which is adding an extra layer of quality assurance to the services that we provide. And gives us reassurance that the children are being safeguarded. In the next year, the team will be supporting us to develop the role and the career of the pathway for children's residential workers in response to the Eliminating Profit and all the developments that we're doing. In terms of the home, we've covered before, really, with the Eliminating Profit agenda proposed by the Welsh Government, it is imminent. The Children Looked After Service is preparing itself as best we can to meet the needs of our children locally in collaboration with non-for-profit organisations. We have developed a 10-year plan and we're well underway in developing new facilities in Conway, such as Bwthyn Silver Gardens and Glanarafon. And these developments closely link with our developments with the workforce teams in creating a workforce to serve the new service. But I don't think any of us underestimate how challenging this is going to be to get enough people to care for these children. From a health perspective, we continue to be supported by the Looked After Children's nurses. However, this year has seen the service come under pressure from the number of unaccompanied asylum-seeking children and the children that present to us from the National Transfer Scheme. In this year alone, we seem to be getting 2 a month, 2 new ones a month, which is expanding everybody's capacity. And it's been particularly challenging for the nurses to ensure that the needs of that set of young people can be met. Most have been placed with providers outside of the county. The providers that we use understand their cultural needs and understand a little bit more about the journeys that they've gone through. So we're confident that they do deliver good support. However, this puts additional pressure on the LAC nurses in trying to make sure that their health needs are met and their educational needs. Most of the young men have engaged well with college. I just had a quick look. We've got 2 children, 2 unaccompanied asylum-seeking children who are in foster care, albeit outside of Conway. The rest, 1 in residential care, and the rest of the children are in supported living, which is why it's more cost effective. Health continue to be active partners in the development of our therapeutic model, such as LIFT and Bwthyn, so they really support us with that. In terms of our leaving care, this service is also under pressure due to the number of UASCs and the young people coming to Conway. They don't just disappear when they're 18, they remain with us and we remain responsible for them until they're 25. And that has put pressure on the vulnerable adults team. That said, that service successfully hosted a care leavers event between October and November. And the event, again, created an opportunity to talk to care leavers about their experience and get invaluable information about how they want services developed in the future. Some of the really important work that's gone on in that team is developing links with employers and mentors to support our children to get into work. and the service has made valuable links with the welfare organisation in order to support young people on tight budgets to learn skills and maximise their food budget. So as you can see, these are just some of the achievements of the corporate parenting team. This corporate team approach is invaluable, and I'm always grateful for every contribution and offer to support my service and to improve the lives of looked after children. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for your excellent report. I mean, really wonderful. And I'm actually going to just pinch a passionate statement from Councillor Paul, you know, about the voice of the child, which you have really given us today. Thank you so much. Okay, before we go to questions, members, I'm just going to read the recommendation, which can be found on page 54, 2.1. The Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee is invited to accept this annual corporate parenting report, to note the areas of successfully achieved by the corporate parenting team during 2022 to 2023 reporting period, and note the key priorities going forward. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Bernice? Okay, members, do I have any questions? Councillor David?
Just perhaps someone can actually tell me what's the tipping point between child looked after going into foster care or going to residential care? I mean,
It's usually around behaviour. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
yes.
It can be about behaviours. Obviously, our first point of call would always choose to be foster care. But sometimes
Is it a tipping point that you think that the foster care can't cope? And
no, different foster carers have different tolerance levels.
Yes, right.
It's hard to describe, really.
Yeah, so it can change.
And sometimes it's shortage of foster carers that
Really
moves through. So we do have in the transformation plan a plan around creating more foster carers.
Yeah, because I think I was looking at I think it's the types of placements. That's on page 72. Yeah, we've got independent foster carers out of area. What we're doing to try to, I think we've got independent ones in, and we've actually got quite a good 53 foster care with Conway Foster Care. What are we doing to get more foster carers in the area, even if the private ones, you know, to try and get? Is there any kind of recruitment, or what's the policy at the moment?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, so we have been fortunate this month. We now have 2 recruitment officers within Conway for our Conway in-house services. I'm creating a paper that should be ready at the end of the month in terms of looking at allowances and fees for foster carers, which hopefully will include looking at how we can support them in having some discounts on council tax, etc. So we would, you know, that's in fact our core thing, our core action in terms of trying to meet the needs of the children, because children's needs, if they can't live with their family, the next is best to live with connected persons or foster carers. And there's only certain children where actually we would assess that residential care is what they need. Very few.
Yeah, just one final question on the residential placements. We've got 6 in area, but we've got 21 out of area. Are we moving forward on that? Obviously, we've got the hindrance of this. Well, not it's a hindrance because it's actually good that it's not for profit, but it could be a hindrance for private providers coming in. I mean, are we moving on that? Because it does seem a bit of an imbalance when we've got 6 in county and 21 out of county.
We're obviously developing Glenavon, so that would be an extra 4 beds. We'll hopefully develop more foster care placements. It's a much slower process, and back to the conversation we had, we have fed back to the Welsh Government that we are concerned that we might not be ready for April 2027. So that we are doing everything we can in our power to develop capacity within Conway. The other thing to bear in mind, there is a small number of children who are involved in gang culture in Conway, who it is in their best interest to move out of Conway. And so there will always be children outside of Conway that we can't bring back until we can tackle their need to be involved with a certain gang.
Thank you very much for that, Kathy, and thank you very much for that, Councillor David. I'm going to call in Councillor Mandy.
Thank you, Chair. David has actually covered a lot of what I was going to say. I was actually just going to say, I know you've been doing a lot of work to entice getting more foster carers, into the county. So thank you to the team who've been working on that, because obviously, yeah, there's a great need for it there. I just wanted to sort of ask, since we've had this report back last year, because I know you were working on the foster care then, and I've seen your team out and about throughout the county actively trying to recruit. Have we actually saw an increase in the uptake of foster carers?
We've had new foster carers, but we've also had some that have retired, so we're still on a plateau. We are hoping that with the introduction of the 2 recruitment officers and the marketing officer, that will increase, and that obviously if we can get to a position where the allowances are even more favourable, that we can entice even more. But my understanding in terms of statistics, it's challenging across Wales, and we are competing with the independent foster carers, as well as other counties. But I would hope to see, and I would hope to be here next year saying actually the 2 recruitment officers have made a real difference. That's my ambition.
Well, that's good to hear. The only other thing I'd sort of add to that is, which I'm sure you are, but are all areas in Wales, all the different counties, having issues with recruiting of foster carers, or is there any of them that are maybe doing a bit better, where we could sort of get some best practice of what's happening? How they're getting more than what we are maybe.
We have looked at across, and we are looking towards thinking about a model called the Mockingbird model, and Flintshire have said that they have increased their foster carers by implementing this mocking care model. So we've got Flintshire coming to the team meeting. We have a version of Mockingbird in Conway, but we need to evaluate how can we actually get it more in line with that. What that model is you have a kind of grandma foster carer who doesn't have any children living with them, but actually is able to, if there's a problem, grandma helps, or grandma will take them to school, and they make sure that they meet every month. Through that, the children grow a bigger network around them. So when crisis happens, there's other people that they know. And through that model, people have extended and offered a second placement. We really know that child because we've seen them every month. Do you know what? That spare bedroom, it's theirs, or whatever. So we are looking to see how we can progress that. So hopefully by next year, I'll come back with some developments.
Thank you
very much,
Kathy,
Kathy,
and the team.
Thank you very much, Mandy. That was a really enlightening question. Okay, Councillor Paul.
Thanks for the report, Kathy. I'm going to make a small proposal, a modest proposal, because I'd like to see more hard data in next year's report. And what I mean by that is I'd like to know how many youngsters in our care went to university in September. I'd like to know how many youngsters got A levels. I'd like to know how many youngsters got GCSEs. I'd also like to know some of the difficult stuff. How many children looked after went missing during the year? How many children and the number of placements they had in a year? I know the target, if they're in long-term care, is 2 years. I mean, it's an arbitrary target, but you need to have something to go towards. And I think that would be important, because as a councillor in my corporate parenting responsibilities, the workbook that was provided with the agenda, and you did it last year, challenges us quite appropriately to ask these questions. And so if that information is more thorough in the report, you won't get as many emails from me saying, what's happening here? What's this? And even like, for example, your explanation for the unaccompanied asylum seekers. Yeah, I knew that maybe the majority were in supported living, but some are in the, well, they're all in the children looked after system, but some are in foster care or residential care because you provide that information. But it should be in the report, I think. It's important to have that in the report so that in terms of that challenge in the workbook for counsellors who are corporate parent, we don't have to bother the staff because we know it's coming to us and it's detailed there, and then we can scrutinise it in these meetings. So that's my small proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Paul. Is that you want it to go onto the recommendations? But I personally feel maybe if we can have a quick word with Kathy, whether that can be added into your next report. Are you happy
As
to
long
do
as
that?
somebody minuted the questions,
Yes,
that's no problem.
Well, they're in the workbook. They're in the
Right,
workbook.
okay. I'll put
In the
them in there.
workbook, it says, I, as a councillor, should ask these questions.
I'll
So
put
I'm
that in.
asking these questions.
Paul, before we go any further, I'm just going to liaise with Councillor Bernice, who actually proposed the recommendations. Do you want to add in that more data is put forward? Are you happy just for Kathy just to include it in her next report? Thank you very much, Councillor Bernice. Okay, did you have one more question, Councillor Paul?
Well, I'll try and be specific to one question. It's important, these things, I think, anyway. And I know the chief exec's not here today, and I'm sure he's got a more pressing priority, but I hope he gets the feedback from here, because in my view, there's nothing that we do that's more a priority than being a corporate parent. So I hope he gets the feedback from the meeting as well. The other issue is this much wider issue about children's capacity in 2024 to self-regulate. And we see this in our schools, we see it in our youth clubs, we see it wherever young people are. And we all struggle to fully understand, yes, the pandemic's had a part, people argue social media's had a part, being out of school has had a part. But in a sense, I actually think, whether it's for our foster carers or our residential staff or our staff in supported living, the issue of how they as adults engage and attach to these youngsters to help them with their self-regulation so that they can have time out when appropriate and talk about those problems in terms of the care system and in a sense those pressures. They're coming into our care system with trauma often, and then we are sometimes, just because of the reality of the situation, adding to their trauma because they can't see their siblings or that key grandfather that was important to them, or the children that they played in a sports team with or whatever, and can't do those things now and get deeply angry, fearful, sad about those situations. And I suppose my question very much to you, and I'm sorry it's a bit long-winded, is how do we improve, if you like, the development and training of our staff even more to and I'm not just making it a challenge to social services, I'm challenging education to actually help these youngsters. I'm not denying that they've got more self-regulation issues, but are we doing enough to equip our staff to support these youngsters at the present time?
So I know that in terms of our strategy for moving forward, in terms of our staffing, that we will be implementing the PACE model and the RAID model, which are all around supporting children when they are emotionally dysregulated. There is a whole raft of services that do include education, counselling, and so it depends where you are, because it's not just in residential care. Some of these children have emotional dysregulation in their own homes. So there's a whole service, as it were, and that's where we do work with health and education to try and agree on models and ways forward in trying to meet those needs. But certainly from the residential element and fostering, we promote the PACE and the RAID model, which supports children in those ways. And some children need more, some children need less. But I think we do recognise.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm just going to call in Jenny.
Thanks. I'm bringing a couple of papers to the, I think it's the July committee on the changing face of social work and also workforce profile, because I think it's a really important point. Have children become more complex, or are the skills that we need to manage that complexity sufficiently understood? And are we keeping up to kind of speed with and being agile in our training and learning? And Anglesey have moved to becoming a trauma-informed island, obviously across all of their public sector services, which is a really interesting model. Obviously, economies of scale, it's perhaps a little easier to do that, but they're getting really good results. And I think we do need to challenge ourselves and think about supporting an already sort of under-resourced staffing group, if you like, because caseloads are increasing and the cases are not typical anymore. When I look back at my own practice, we've all, supporting vulnerable children is our business, but there are some children where, we're just running out of tools. And I think we do need to start to think about that. So hopefully we'll have more debate in the July, I think it's the July meeting, because exploitation in the broader sense is also an area that we need to understand better, and the impact on children, because it is very much the unthinkable, and it's more common. As I know Kathy said, there's a small number of children who we know are firmly in the exploitation box in Conway, but when you start to think about criminal exploitation, sexual exploitation, child sexual abuse, exploitation in that sense, it's a very the sort of the skills you need, not only but for your own resilience and well-being, but to enable support and a better improvement and outcomes for children is shifting, I think. And what we need from our sort of education establishments and certainly working with education colleagues and ensuring that our education workforce are with us on this. But, working with Llandrillo and Bangor to make sure that those courses are also fit for purpose, because I think we've seen the social work degree perhaps not evolve and develop in a modern way, to meet the needs of children. I know it's a really long answer. I feel very passionately about it, and we'll come back to it, but it's definitely one to keep challenging ourselves on.
Thank you, Jenny. And I know that we look forward to that report. Very quickly, as
because
I have other speakers, Councillor Paul.
Because I think the infrastructure around our staff is also very, very important, because this is very emotionally demanding work, needs a lot of emotional labour. And at the end of the day, there needs to be structures around our staff to talk through some of these experiences. And I worry, just the same as in our schools, that lots of good people who could be teachers, who could be social workers, are choosing not to come into the profession because I suspect we haven't got a robust enough infrastructure around them to really support them and encourage them through these difficult daily experiences.
Thank you very much, Councillor Paul. I'm now going to move on to Councillor Liz.
Thank you so much. No, I'd just like to say, as I'm really privileged to be Cabinet Lead of Children and Families and Safeguarding, because there's such innovative practice that takes place. And I'm so privileged to be able to sit in on so many different meetings well, Strengthening Families was one that I attended a whole morning. And to say I was impressed is the understatement. I was really impressed with the work that they do. And, looking now, I haven't yet read a fully researched paper post-pandemic as yet, because families' lives have changed completely. I've seen it in my own grandchildren that they're not the same since COVID. And so if you've got those extended concerns of going into care and no roof over your head, what effect does this have on families? You can't function without a roof over your head. And I'm so pleased now, Councillor Penny and I had a meeting with Councillor Emily and looking at how we can work more closely with housing. I know it's already happening with social care and housing, but I think we need to be looking at even a little bit further as well. I like the bit here where the young people now want to call it power voices, which demonstrates to me that they are being heard. They just need that wee bit more of power to go with it. So I'm very impressed with that. And we as corporate parents have a role to play in recruitment of foster parents. And if I get any opportunity, I'm onto the recruitment team to say, I've got this event going on, can you come to it? So I think, you know, there's so many events going on, they can't be everywhere, but I think if they are made aware of what's going on in communities, then we can do our bit as well. The mockingbird practice is something that I've been looking at for some time, and I'm so pleased that we are looking at, you know, working more closely with Flintshire on that. And I'd just like to say about trauma, the trauma-informed island bit, I like that, Jenny, and I think that we should be a trauma-informed county. And I have been highly impressed with a TA that I've been working with in Ysgol Pen-y-Bryn. She is the name person. I thought she was a teacher because how I was quite impressed with her. But she's a TA working in Ysgol Pen-y-Bryn, and they were picked to the post to be the first school in Wales to receive the Gold Award for their work with military children. And they're a trauma-informed school, and she's encouraging other teachers that she comes in contact with to become trauma-informed, because it's made such a difference to the school's working practice. And so I'd like to see more schools in Conway become trauma-informed. That would make a massive difference. So thank you very much indeed to the team.
Thank you very much, Councillor Liz. Okay, Councillor Austin, diolch yn fawr.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Unwaith eto, ga i ddiolch i'r swyddogion am yr adroddiad yma. Mae o unwaith eto ni'n gynhwysfawr. A ga i hefyd ddeud, dwi'n hollol ffyddiog bod ein swyddogion ni a'n gwasanaethau cymdeithasol ni yn gwneud i gorau glas dros y plant a'r pobl, dros y plant sydd dan ein gofal ni, ac hefyd yn gwneud i gorau glas dros yr oedolion sydd angen gofal ac yn y blaen. Mae o yn waith anodd dros ben. Mae addysg ryfath, mae genna i ferch yng nghyfrasydd na athrawes, a wch chi, mae'r hen joc ynglyn â'r nifer o wyliau maen nhw'n gael, wel, mae hwnnw wedi mynd bellach, oherwydd mae nifer fawr ohonyn nhw yn union fel mae gweithwyr cymdeithasol yn gwneud lot o waith tu allan i oriau gwaith, a mae rhaid i ni sylweddoli hynny. A dwi yn teimlo weithiau bod ni fel cynghorwyr, oes mae angen sgrwtineiddio, mae angen gofyn y cwestiynau, ond mae angen i ni fod weithiau yn gefnogol. Felly, ga i ddiolch i chi am eich gwaith ac ga i ddiolch am yr adroddiad yma, a mae o yn blesau gyda i eilio cynnig y cynghorydd Bernice i gymeradwyo yr adroddiad yma. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Councillor Austin. Okay, members, just to get back, the recommendation is on page 54, 2.1. The Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee is invited to accept this annual corporate parenting report to note the areas of successfully achieved by the corporate parenting team during 2022 to 2023 reporting period, and note the key priorities going forward. Our proposer is Councillor Bernice, and we have seconder Councillor Austin. Members, can I now ask by the show of hands in the chamber and on Zoom if you support this? Anybody against? Or anybody abstaining? Members, that has been carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Officers, cabinet members, Dawn and Jane on Zoom, and I hope you get better, Jane. And members, thank you very much for your scrutiny today. It's been a very productive meeting. Thank you very much and enjoy your afternoon. Diolch yn fawr pawb.
Thank you, members.